is Sakara Willow, and I'm the lawyer on this case. In this case, we have two male victims who were murdered on the evening of February 28th around 7 p.m. in the year of 2024, but weren't discovered until the morning of February 29th at exactly 8:45 a.m. in Mr. Speller's forensic classroom. On this morning, Mr. Speller clocked into work and proceeded to his classroom to prepare for the rest of his day. In his mind, this was like any other normal morning, but when he turned on his classroom lights, he was met with two dead bodies. After discovering this gruesome scene, Mr. Speller called the police.
Hi, my name is Robert Roberts, and I'm the first responder on the case. When I first walked into the crime scene, I noticed the burn mark on the back of the second victim's head, which indicated that the victim was shot in the back of the head from close range. The next thing I noticed was strangle marks and black eyes of the first victim, which indicated that he was strangled to death. When I look around the room, I noticed the shell casing from a Winchester 45mm pistol, which helped us identify the murder weapon used on the second victim. To help us with the crime scene, my group of investigators used the quadrant method. Each of us took up 4 corners of the room while one person was in the middle. We each rotated positions after 3 minutes of investigating our sections of the room. We were able to find very solid evidence using this method, which led us to finding our suspects on the case. As the group rotated around each corner of the room, we noticed that there was green hair at the crime scene, and we also noticed the bloody footsteps facing different directions of the room. We noticed that there was only 2 sets of footsteps when there were 3 people in the room, so that showed us that one victim was instantly killed. We also noticed the victim was strangled was the first to be killed because we didn't find many of his footsteps around the room. As we each investigated the room, we noticed footprints facing a drawer with blood on it, and as my forensic science teacher always says, blood is the narrator. So as we opened the drawer, we found a hammer in it with a bunch of blood on it. That indicated to us that someone was struck with a hammer.
Now that Mr. Roberts has presented how we observed the crime scene in detail, let's get into the forensic science part.
When you walk into the crime scene, the first thing you see is bloody UGG footprints that measures to about 10.3 inches, which is the equivalent to a size 9 shoe. Next, you see 2 male victims, one in front of the other, one is face down and the other is face up. On your left and your right, you see mist-like blood spatter on the cabinets and the counter, and there's also mist-like blood spatter on the wall, and it also has brains on it. Both bodies have identical green hair on them. I compared the green hair to the samples from my hair lab and concluded that our main suspect was Nevaeh Hasley. When I compared the 2 samples of hair, they had the same coil but different colors. During interrogation, our suspect informed us that she hadn't dyed her hair since August, which would explain the difference in color, one being a lighter green and one being a darker green. On the left side of the room, there was a Winchester USA full metal jacket .45 automatic 230 grain handgun shell casing on the ground. Inside of the cabinet, there was a friendship bracelet, a black heart necklace, and a Kenwood Academy High School lanyard. There were also some initials that were TS or TW on a poster board in the cabinet. The victim closest to the front door of the room had a gunshot wound on the back of his head that was burned, telling us that that was the entry wound. Based on the location of the gunshot wound, it tells us that the suspect was right-handed. I also assumed that he was a younger male based off of his clothing and the fact that he was wearing friendship bracelets. The second victim closest to the back door was assumed to be an adult male janitor that worked at the school because of the broom that was in between his legs and his clothing. He was lying down on his back with blood dripping from the back of his head, indicating that he was hit with the hammer. He also had hand marks on his neck, blood coming from his mouth, and black eyes, which indicates that he was asphyxiated. In one of the lower cabinets, there was blood on the inside and outside of the door with a bloody hammer inside of it. There were also footprints of the first victim's shoes in front of the cabinet where the hammer was hidden, which shows us that he was the one that put the hammer in the cabinet. When we used the black light, we found a fingerprint on the adult male victim's forehead. On the front door, we found writing in blood that said, "Thanks, Dad," and next to the back door on the cabinet, we found blood smudged. There were also bloody footprints of his shoes in close area of where he was laying down that shows that he was stumbling before he was actually choked after he got hit in the head with the hammer.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson, for the analysis of both the victim and the murderer. Now let's get into the forensic architect.
Hi, my name is Michaela Butler, and I am the forensic pathologist / architect. For a sequence of events, Nevaeh had just finished practice and was going upstairs to meet her dad. Her dad is one of the janitors of the school, so he was making his daily rounds to Mrs. Speller's classroom. As she approached Mrs. Speller's classroom, she overheard her dad and her boyfriend having a heated argument. As Nevaeh walked into the heated argument, her alter ego beginning came out. Stargirl witnessed her boyfriend grab a hammer and continue to hit her dad in the back of her head. Stargirl then went into job as she choked her dad to death. Stargirl witnessed her boyfriend start to panic as he tried to hide the murder weapon, the hammer. She then took the chair to shoot him. As he fell to the ground, she shot him once again. After Stargirl shot her boyfriend, she panically ran away from the crime scene. There were two things that contributed to the father's death: blunt force trauma to the back of the head and asphyxiation. When the boyfriend hit the father with the hammer, he damaged his cerebellum. The cerebellum is located in the back of the head, below the temporal lobe and occipital lobe, and right above the brainstem. Our cerebellum controls our sense of balance. It allows us to do things like stand up and walk in a straight line. The boyfriend could have also possibly damaged the occipital lobe, which is responsible for visual perception, including motion, color, and form. Damage to the cerebellum and the occipital lobe could cause problems with vision and balance, which allowed Stargirl to easily come in and choke her father to death. The medical term for choking is asphyxiation. During asphyxiation, victims may lose consciousness by one of the following methods: blocking of the carotid arteries in the neck, which means that the brain is deprived of oxygen; blocking of the jugular veins, which prevents deoxygenated blood from exiting the brain; and closing off the airways, which makes it impossible to breathe. The boyfriend got shot on the right side of his head, which means the bullet could have hit the occipital lobe, the peroneal lobe, the cerebral cortex, or the frontal lobe. When the bullet itself goes through the brain, there's an injury from both the direct penetration of the bullet and from the transmission of the pressure wave from the velocity of the bullet traveling through the brain tissue. Both bleeding and damage from this pressure wave results in brain swelling, which can also lead to death. A bullet trajectory through key blood vessels in the brain can result in rapidly expanding blood clots in the brain that can critically compress the important blood tissues, resulting in immediate death at the scene. If the victim survives the initial impact, the issue becomes the increasing pressure inside the skull.
Form was it?
It was abuse trauma, like abusive.
Physical?
Yeah, physical.
Do you know anyone with the initials TS or TW?
No.
So, when is the last time you dyed your hair?
Like August before school. Like August, like probably like 2 days before school.
Yeah. So, why was your hair at the crime scene?
I don't really know. I wasn't there. You know, we did have the hair lab, so people could have put my hair there because they could probably hate me. But I was not there. I was my best friend.
So, why do you have matching bracelets?
Well, it was my boyfriend.
Where was your boyfriend?
Well, truth is,
The victim was your boyfriend?
yes. Truth is, I have, okay, so truth is, I have an art ego. Her name is Stargirl. And my boyfriend was molesting me and abusing me also. So I killed him. Well, I didn't, she did. And I shot him.
So, where did the other victim come in? Was he just there, or
That was
your father? Your father. Did he work at this school?
yes,
He was a janitor, wasn't he?
yes.
So, did you come in there to kill him, or did you kill your boyfriend first?
No, I didn't go in there to anyone. Let me see what happened.
Okay.
So Nevaeh went in there because she heard arguing. She saw it was her boyfriend and her dad arguing. So then, all of a sudden, she saw that her boyfriend picked up a hammer and he had hit her dad in the back of the head with the hammer. And so then, I came out, Stargirl came out, and I had the chance to just choke him out. So I choked him, and then I killed him. And then after that, I kind of just like, since my dad was messing me and my boyfriend was messing me, I should just take my revenge and kill both of them. So then I just grabbed the gun and shot him in the head. And I wrote things down in the door before I left.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for your time.
Now that Ms. Butler has thoroughly explained the brain damage inflicted on both of the victims, we can get into the forensic psychologist part.
Hello, my name is Dallas Arderman. I'm the forensic psychologist. I analyzed and observed not only the evidence presented to me by my colleagues on this case, but I also conducted and observed the interrogation between me, our lawyer Sakira, and the assailant Nevaeh Haslett. I want to highlight two forms of evidence that stuck out to me: the message "Thanks Dad" that was written on the wall in blood, and the friendship bracelet found on victim 2, aka also known as the victim that was shot in the head. I'm also going to assess and break down what I observed from the assailant. The assailant in this case demonstrates clear sociopathic tendencies characterized by a lack of empathy, remorse, impulsivity, and a propensity for manipulative behavior. Her ability to orchestrate a sequence of violent acts with such precision indicates a high level of cunning and a disregard for the consequences of her actions. The message on the door, thanking her father, suggests a twisted sense of justification or retribution for perceived abuse. The choice to eliminate both the father and the boyfriend implies a calculated and vengeful mindset. The use of different methods such as strangulation and shooting indicates a desire for a varied and impactful form of retaliation. The assailant's claim that her alter ego committed the murders could be a tactic to deflect responsibility or manipulate the narrative. This manipulation and the apparent effort to frame the victims as abusive reflects a cunning and calculated approach to the crime. The presence of footprints near the bodies suggests a certain level of impulsivity or lack of concern for leaving evidence, perhaps stemming from a belief in her ability to evade consequences. The confirmation of sociopathy indicates a fundamental lack of empathy, making it challenging for the assailant to understand or connect with the emotional impact of her actions on others. This individual presents a psychological profile consistent with sociopathy, displaying a lack of empathy, manipulative tendencies, and a calculated approach to violence fueled by a perceived history of abuse. The assailant's actions are deeply rooted in a distorted perception of social constructs, highlighting her sociopathic nature. Her ability to manipulate social dynamics is evident in the meticulous planning of the murders and the subsequent framing of the victims as abusive. The choice to target her father, a janitor, and her boyfriend reflects a strategic selection of individuals positioned lower in traditional societal hierarchies. A janitor is typically a career that is disregarded or looked down upon within society, and a boyfriend is typically not taken seriously or cared about if you are not a husband, as you have no financial claim or anything within society. This can be indicative of a desire to assert control over those perceived as vulnerable or less socially influential. The use of a friendship bracelet on the boyfriend, typically associated with affection and trust, adds a layer of betrayal to the crime, emphasizing the assailant's ability to exploit emotional connections. Referring back to the message "Thanks Dad" scrawled on blood on the door serves as a macabre acknowledgement. This demonstrates a distorted understanding of familial relations and social norms, as expressions of gratitude are typically positive. The assailant's claim that her alter ego committed the murders introduces an element of disassociation, challenging traditional views of self-awareness and identity. This psychological defense mechanism may be employed to distance herself from the heinous acts, possibly as a means of self-preservation within the societal context. The framing of both victims as abusive serves as a dual purpose, not only as a justification for the violence enacted, but also as an attempt to manipulate societal perceptions. By casting herself as a victim of abuse, the assailant seeks to garner sympathy and potentially exploit societal biases that may be inclined to emphasize with abuse survivors. In essence, the assailant's actions reveal a profound manipulation of social constructs, from the selection of victims based on the societal roles to the strategic framing of the narrative. This underscores a complex interplay between her sociopathic tendencies and a distorted understanding of social dynamics, contributing to the chilling and calculating nature of the crimes committed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arderman, for explaining the psychological issues that our suspect has presented us with. Finally, let's discuss our decision. Me and my team have made the conscious decision to prosecute against Nevaeh Hasley. Not only did she lie in her first interrogation video, but in her confession video, she was smiling to show how proud and satisfied she was with these 2 murders. Also, her message Things Dad shows that she willingly committed second-degree murder, inflicting harm with the intent to kill. Because of the way that Nevaeh presents herself with bright green hair dye and piercings, we know that she lives a wild life. Now that Nevaeh has admitted to these murders and we have solid evidence, she should be receiving the minimum of 50 years without the possibility of parole. Thank you for your time.